Recording.
Well, we can begin right now. So everyone, welcome to Demo.Reset, to this new exchange experience session. We are happy to see all of you. We are like 28 people on this meeting. So I'm happy to see all of you in here and interest on this process. We are going to begin. So welcome to the session number 1. Remember that there will be 5 sessions of exchange of experiences. This first one is designed for deliberative democracy. So I wanted to remind you that all channels are open. We are very, very, very attentive of the chat if there is any questions, and if you feel more comfortable writing that talking, then you can write us through the chat. You can please keep the microphone on mute if you are getting connected. We need to continue with our speaking. So please put the microphone on mute so the session can continue. And if you feel comfortable, I noticed that a lot of people feel comfortable and have already put their cameras on. So thank you. If there is anybody else who can turn the camera on, I invite you to do it. And remember to the raise your hand function if you want to ask a question, if you want to talk about something. So today, I think it's very interesting because we are integrating all the regions from the Global South that we are working with. The focus group sessions were only by hubs, and now we are integrating all the hubs in the exchange experience sessions. So it is important to us that you get connected with other practices, other organizations that work on the same issues that you do too. So the goal of this session is, like the name said it, is to exchange experiences. And this will work by 3 speakers who will talk to us about their own experiences. And it is a session where I want to ask you to be very active and ask questions, and maybe if you feel like there's something you should be more aware of, like ask about that. And if there is anything you don't understand, please let us know and let the speakers know. So why are we doing the experience exchange sessions? Is to facilitate the exchange of knowledge about the deliberative process in the Global South through the speakers and through the questions directly to them. We can also identify the best practices, tools, methodologies, and the strategies for the models of deliberative democracy in the Global South. And the third reason why we are doing this is to boost integration and the cross-regional approach of the project, to also facilitate the approaches of everyone of the global south. I don't know who has please, if you
Thank you.
So the agenda for the session. We will have a block of introduction. It will last 15 minutes. Then we will pass to the speaker's presentation and the exchange time. Here, I will make an emphasize on the need that this is an exchange time. And so we also want you to feel comfortable to to make questions and to interact with all of us. So if you feel comfortable, please ask questions, raise your hand, or you can also use the chat to make those questions. So this block will last 16 minutes, and then we will have the third block with Q&A and wrap-up activities. So let's get to know each other. Today's team, I present myself. I am Silvia Remolina. I work at Extituto, and I'm here at Demo.Reset, like leading the hub of Latin America. And I don't know, I'm very excited to do this, to see like a lot of people here. So yes, that's it. I will present also Aluna.
Yes, hello everyone. I will be taking notes for you today because we want to have this information all considered at the end of the project, so we can share that with you also. So it's really glad having you here. Thank you so much for joining us.
And then we, well, I want the speakers to present themselves. Today we have Calvin, Katya, and Julia. Maybe Calvin, you can begin to present yourself.
Hi, everybody. My name is Calvin Jodisi. I'm from Kenya. I'm co-founder of Africa Startup Campus. And I'm so excited to be, doing a presentation today and discussing on different form of how we can be able to design participatory democracy. So it's quite exciting to be here. Thank you so much, Sylvia, and everybody at Extituto.
Thank you, Calvin. Maybe Katya, you can continue.
Yeah. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for having me today. This is really exciting to be a part of this exchange, and I'm really looking forward to learning from all of you. I'm a co-founder and international director of Participation Factory, an organization that is based in Czech Republic, but we're working not only in Central Eastern Europe, but elsewhere as well. And I'm really looking forward to sharing with you our experiences on creating what we call sustainable participation systems for sustainable participatory democracy.
Thank you, Katya. Julia, if you're out there, please present yourself.
Me? Hello?
Yes, Julia.
Oh, okay. Hello, it's a pleasure to be in this session. Thank you very much for this Demo.Reset project. I'm very exciting. My name is Julia Sequeira. I represent the Argentine Association of Participatory Democracy, and I'm going to present the experience of the Argentine network of participatory budgeting today. So I'm very, very happy. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Julia. So we are going to start the session with a Padlet where we can put our country or city where we are right now, and ask to the question and answer to the question, if we could visit your city, where would you take us first? The idea is I will send you the Padlet right now. Give me a minute. So I've sent it through the chat. You can enter to the page, and these are the instructions to use the Padlet. So we want to put everyone's activity. So you are going to put the plus in pink, and then you will write the name of your location with your name, your organization, and the place where you're at. Wait a minute. I'm going to resend it. Please check if it is working now. Great. So I'm going to do it first. I'm right here. And I'm going to put where I am at. I'm going to put my name, my organization, could you make it? Yes, I'm seeing someone from Nairobi in Prague. I think maybe it's Katia. Yes, in Brooklyn. So I will invite you to maybe through the chat or if you want to tell us, answering to this question. If we could visit your country, where would you take us first? Maybe Melina, do you want to tell us?
Hi, everyone. I would just like to say nice to meet you, and I see some new faces here that I've been writing with and chatting, but we didn't have a chance to meet before. Those are mostly members of the Eastern European Hub, because I'm working as a mobilizer for Demo.Reset for the Eastern European Hub. So, hi everyone, nice to meet you. I'm very happy to be part of this project. I'm usually working for an Open Mosaic, a company that's very active in advocating participatory processes of different kinds. And I'm currently living in Dubrovnik in Croatia, which is a beautiful city. And well, if you could visit my city, I would definitely take you to the city walls, a very, very old fortification system that allows us, all visitors actually, to get a nice insight into the old town and the history of this whole place. So that's it. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Malina. Daniel, do you want to tell us something?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sylvia. My name is Daniel Rog. I'm not able to use my video. I'm calling from Nairobi, Kenya. I am the mobilizer for the Sub-Saharan Africa. I think it's good to join this session today to learn. But if I was to refer to Nairobi, any place here, then for the new visitors or somebody visiting, I think it's Nairobi National Park, the only national park that is within the city of any country. So I think that would be a very interesting place to take the visitors and whoever is visiting Nairobi for the first time. But I'm looking forward to learning in this session. Thank you, Sylvia.
Thank you, Daniel. So if everyone else wants to tell us, please write down on the chat, or maybe Abbas, I will go on, Abbas.
Hello, everyone. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Abbas. How are you?
Abbas Mantula from Sierra Leone. I am the founder and executive director of Advocacy for Human Rights and Justice, Sierra Leone. A community-based organization dedicated to advocating, promoting, and protecting human rights and justice in all walks of life. I am super excited to be here today and to see all of these wonderful faces around. Going forward, if you are to come to my country, I will first of all take you to my home country, Makeni, Wambali District, Northern Province. And the place directly I will take you is at the correctional centers here. So at least you can see the situation, the conditions of my country's correctional centers and how the inmates are living, because I am currently passionate in advocating and securing bail for detainees and suspects in cells, juveniles, and young persons in conflict with the law, advocated for the speedy trials and well-being of inmates in correctional centers. So it is very essential that you visit correctional centers. You get to see for yourselves how they are living, their conditions and all of that. So once again, I am super excited to be here and I look forward to sharing and learning from all of you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Abbas. Thank you for sharing that with us. So we are going to pass right now. Maybe Frank, if you can write down on the chat, I will thank you. We need to pass now to, okay.
I am Frank. Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Frank.
Okay, I am Frank Ostov Tamondogmo from Cameroon. I'm working for, since the beginning of the training, I was working with Cameroon for a work beyond war, with whom I'm too working. But today I'm also representing another association, Peace Boss Association from Cameroon too. And today is a great day for us because today is, is a memorial of the International African Day, in memoriam of all the youth killed in Soweto during the apartheid for racism. So it's a good, it was really important for us to say that, because Peace Boss Association too is working on peace education and children. And I am the director, I'm a program director from Peace Boss Association. So today I'm representing from Cameroon to association with Judith who is here. And I'm really glad for that. So I wish you to really wish for us African youth a really good day. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Frank. Thank you all of you for sharing like experiences in your countries. It's very nice to hear you and to feel you so excited about your countries and your processes. So we will pass right now to the speakers time. So the first one is Calvin. So I'm going to share the presentation. Please, everyone, can you put your mics off? I don't know who's talking. Thank you. So go on, Calvin. The first speaker of
thank
today.
you very much, everybody. Thank you so much. I think it's quite exciting to actually get to listen to the introductions and get to know where we are from, and it's quite exciting to also get to know where people can visit as well when you come to different countries. So thank you so much. Yeah, I think as Daniel said, if you are to come to Kenya, we'd make sure that you visit either Nairobi National Park, or we can take you for a safari in Masai Mara. Like, you're going to see all the big animals, and it's always quite exciting. So yeah. So thank you very much, everybody. I'm so excited, and thanks so much to the team at Demo.Reset for organizing this. I think this is quite exciting. I'm passionate about deliberative democracy, and definitely looking forward to this amazing conversation as well. And so, yeah, so my name is Calvin. I am co-founder of Africa Startup Campus. We believe in innovative democracy and be able to look at how can we change the normal democracy to be a democracy for everyone, that is so that everybody is actually economically empowered as well. So thank you so much. Let's go to the next slide. Yes, so I just want you guys to probably in 1 second just list for me, tell me what you think when you see that photo. So maybe just on the chat, maybe just write something when you see that photo. What comes into your mind when you see that photo? So just write something on the chat. So when you see that photo, what comes into your mind? Okay, thank you. Diversity, dialogue. That's really good. Diversity. Anybody else? What comes into your mind when you see that photo? People of all races. Wow, that's really nice. Inclusive. Oh, inclusion. Amazing. Sensors. Oh, that's really consensus. That's fine. Collective efforts. I think that's really good. Yeah. So those are really amazing answers. I think those are those are really cool answers. And basically, anytime that people come to the table, most of the time they're actually coming to make decisions. So just talk about something. When we at home and we get to the table together as a family, we're all happy and eating together and discussing probably how we can build maybe a better family and all this kind of stuff. So I think this is quite exciting. Next slide. Yeah, so if you look at the deliberative democracy, simply, I mean, pretty much what comes into your mind, like just a straightforward meaning is, it's also called discussive democracy. So meaning that this form of discussion is a form of democracy in which the focus is central to decision making. It adopts the element of both consensus decision making and majority rule. It's more of people agenda focused. So that's how I look at it. It's more like, we're all coming together. We want to sit down, discuss something, and actually be able to agree on something. So some of the key 3 things that actually I've always observed is I've always observed and even taken note is, one is the observe. So one is the view people's behavior in the context of their daily lives. So for example, if you're putting, if you're designing participatory democracy, you have to really understand what are people looking at, what are some of their behaviors, So you all come maybe from a particular society or from a particular kind of location, maybe even if it's a city, what kind of behavior, what's their life like, you know? So that's basically, that's what you need to look at. And what people say may be different from what they do. So you have to observe the disconnect. So during observation, you have to really understand, like, okay, so do these people really mean what they say? What affects their day-to-day life? So if I'm living in a pastoralist community where people are rearing cows, for example, what kind of conversation should I be able to have with them? So another thing is, after that, is engage. Okay, it focuses on having conversation and asking questions to get deeper insights on people's experience, challenges, and solutions available. So this is 100% people driven. You have to really ask people, what are some of the problems they're experiencing? And this is just helping you be able to design something that will actually be very appealing to people. So you have to ask them, what are some of the experience that you guys are going through? What are some of the challenges? And gathering all this information together. And once once you're able to get them, then actually you'll be able to get very good feedback. And the last one is pretty much watch and listen. So spend time with people, let them walk you through how they want it done. So we all champion democracy in our countries, in our different areas, but how often do we really ask people what they want to, how they want it done, or maybe what are some of their needs? What are some of the solutions? Are we even giving them a chance to be able to actually give solutions? Okay, so you for example, you're in a community that has maybe problem with maybe even racial discrimination or even religious intolerance. So maybe you come from, let's say, even like, let's say Nigeria, which is multi-religious. So maybe you have Muslims, Christians, and most of the time maybe they really don't, they have maybe some kind of conflict. So how do you bring these guys together and be able to make them, ask them what solution do they have to their problems? And I think that's some of the things that actually usually lack when we're designing this kind of concept, because you're going to sit down as an organization because maybe you have the funding and you have everything, and then you're just going to design something from what you think that people, the challenges that you think people have, but maybe that's not the solution you're going to give them, is not like what they want to have. Next slide. So what are some of the design processes? How do you effectively design this process? So number one is number one is you have to identify the need. You're designing this this particular deliberative democracy. You have to identify the need. What are some of the needs in the community? Okay, and then after you identify, you have to define. Okay, and how do you define the need? You have to really go deeper and understand what's the real need. So there's need, but there's always the real need. There's a problem, but there's always the real problem. So if you're able to identify and be able to differentiate the two, then you actually are able to make something. And then after that is mobilization. Mobilization here doesn't mean that you're going to mobilize people. You can actually mobilize resources, you can mobilize ideas, you can mobilize, just kind of setting up the framework. Okay, and then and that actually now comes to strategy that you want to use. And after that, you're going to evaluate the strategy, and during the evaluation is basically knowing the process. Okay, and then the last one is impact. And so basically, how do you measure the impact of all that particular process, And so that is basically, that's what you look at. Next slide. So basically you can ask yourself, like, what the deliberative democracy need? What do you need? Okay. So one of the things that you need is basically framing the right problem is the only way to create the right solution. Okay. So you have to really now frame this right problem. You've understood what people, people have stated what kind of problems they have and all that, and probably they're given the solution. So how do you frame this, okay, so that you can actually be able to create a right solution? So some of the things that I always look at is probably looking at characteristics of good point of view. Point of view is probably number one is provide focus and frames in the problem. So what are some of the focus areas that actually you're going to look at, okay? And then number two is also inspire your team, okay? How are you able to inspire your team to be able to come up with, some of the solutions? And inspiring your team doesn't really mean like your internal team, but it also means the team you're working with in the community to be able to identify some of the challenges and some of the problems. So those are actually form also part of your team. How do you inspire them? How do you inspire them to be able to come out very well and be able to be outspoken and share their, their different experiences and all that? Another one is inform critical criteria for evaluating competing ideas. Okay, people are going to give you different ideas. People are going to give you different solutions. So how do you evaluate those ideas and actually be able to rank them? So I come from maybe a pastorate community where they only rear cows. My problem probably will be my cows need water. My problem might not be on, maybe my problem might not be like on maybe tribalism and all that kind of stuff. So my problem would be like, how do I get my cows to have feeds, to get water, maybe to get all those kind of needs? So how do I prioritize that? So that's also very important. And also, another one is you also have to empower your team to make decisions independently. It's very important that you assure your different communities that they need to also be independent in terms of thought. Okay, you shouldn't be able to influence the kind of thinking that you want them to think, because I know in our daily to-day work and different organizations that work in this particular space, is sometimes you just want to influence the decision or the kind of decision they come, because maybe your sponsor or maybe your donor has been able to tell you like, okay, this is what we want and this is how we want you to be able to talk about this. Okay, so you have to make sure that people think independent, because that's when you can actually get the right solution. And then after that is capture the hearts and the minds of people you meet, basically with the different frameworks that you put in place. And then the last one is the last one is just be able the last one is combine 3 elements that is actionable, meaningful to the problem statement. So you have to articulate the problem very well. What are some of the action points, and how do you drive a meaning into that? So next slide. So why? So basically just the same, framing the right problem for the right solution. So if, for example, you're in a small group, so small groups are most promising constructive efforts of civil engagement. Okay, so you don't really need to have like a very big group for you to be able to get the right information and all that. So can you be able to align different small groups to actually be able to come up with different solutions, so that you have many groups giving you different thoughts and different ideas, and then you can actually be able to combine all those different mindsets of thinking together. And also another one is you have to involve the public. Definitely public deliberation is very key as well. And also understanding culture and the political life of the communities. If you're actually engaging, if your form of engagement is politically, or if it's economically, or if it's culturally, you actually be able to understand that. And then also maybe after that, you can also be able to understand how effective large-scale public sphere reforms. So can you be able to understand now the aspect of the public dimension, dispensation? And then the last one is institutional design for effective public deliberation. For example, your institution has the right tools that actually can be able to engage the public, okay? Or maybe do you engage your government, that they have probably the best platforms that I can actually be able to engage everyone. Next. So basically, we also have different challenges as well when it comes to deliberative democracy. And I'm just going to list like just 3 challenges that actually heads up is sometimes public support for deliberative democracy is quite weak, and sometimes it can also be inconsistent. Okay, and this can only happen when, especially when you're looking at getting ideas and that from the from a bigger number, but if you're looking at getting that from smaller numbers, then you can easily achieve your goal. And also in a group of people, the expected and classic skills for deliberation may vary, okay? Because definitely you're asking, people are giving different ideas. Their ideas might not be probably a solution to the problem that you're looking at, because if today you gather us together, people will always have different opinions and different ideas. So probably that can also make you not be able to make the right decision as well. And last but not least is also deliberations has been overwhelmed by mass media. So things like social media and looking at miscommunication, other forms of media, So and this is very true, because if you look at the number of miscommunication that actually is in social media, they're quite a lot, And nowadays people believe a lot in something that you put on Facebook. So if today I post something on Facebook, people will believe it more than even trying to look for more information about that particular thing. So those are some of the hindrances as well. But then there's still a lot of things that we can actually be able to do to be able to overcome that. Next.
So Calvin,
how many minutes do we have?
The time has already passed, but you have 2 minutes left. You want to
it's fine.
finish.
3 minutes is fine. Yeah, just go to the next slide and then we move faster. Okay, so basically effective framework. Yeah, so you because I'm going to share this slide with everybody, so you guys can be able to read through that. So next slide. I just want to talk on the social media one. Next slide. Yeah, so one of the most effective tools is using social media right now, and that is very, very key. And so I just wanted to take you through another aspect, we have social media like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and these are actually very important tools and platforms that you can actually be able to use to be able to drive participatory democracy. And it's also our mandate that your organization must or should at least have all these social media platforms. So your organization have Facebook, Twitter, and all that. And one of the most also important thing is podcast. You should be able to engage people through podcasts, and you can actually combine that with your website. And also even pushing polls. You can have some polls that are asking questions, and you're actually able to collect that information on daily basis. Next. So yeah, so in Kenya, we've always succeeded in many ways. Like we have something called Nyumba Kumi Initiative, which is actually in Kenya and Tanzania, where we have small families. So people are able to get information in terms of who is moving in the neighborhood, what are they doing, and all that. And that informs a lot of decision, especially to reduce crime. And so we take that as part of participatory democracy, because people are actually able to know each other and know the kind of activities that they do. And then next. Yeah, so I just thought of putting you guys this picture, and I think everybody knows about Arab Spring and how social media was able to be used to be able to bring all these young people together, and they're actually able to change the narrative. So every organization needs to make sure that they effectively use social media and also websites and all that to be able to make sure that they have a larger number of people participate in democracy in whichever way, and also be able to get their thoughts and ideas in terms of how to advance the conversation and even come up with a solution. So thank you very much. The last slide. Yeah, so you can reach out to me, Calvin at Extituto.org is also an organization, but I think we are all on the WhatsApp group. Be free to reach out and we'll be glad to share this more even with the organization. And you can always invite me to speak at you in your organization, or if you have any kind of forum as well. So thank you very much, and looking forward to other speakers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Calvin. Right now, I'm having some troubles with my computer, so maybe if I sound weird, strange, it's for that. So right now we are gonna pass to the questions. Any of you have any questions to the presentation of Calvin? Maybe.
Hello, may I?
Please continue.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
I was just answering to the call that if there are any questions for Calvin, I would like to ask Calvin a question, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you very well, Anja.
Super. Thank you. My name is Anya. I'm coming from Bonsai, from Dubrovnik. Thank you for sharing the knowledge and experience. It was really nice to hear, and it was inspirational, as you said it, as a very important part of the mix of the deliberative democracy. I was interested in perhaps hearing some of your thoughts regarding stewardship. When we have somebody to participate, when we include them, when we call out beginning to hear first about the problem, defining the problem, and then finding the solution. In which way can we think about, fostering basically to make it their own, to become aware that it's their own decision, their own solution. Any thoughts on that, perhaps? Thank you.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you very much. I think that's a very good observation right there. I mean, ownership is very key, and so for me, I think, I mean, how do you make people on the approach is basically be able to assure them that they can actually think independently. So if you give people that assurance that, look, we're not going to judge you in terms of what you're going to say, and also we are not going to disclose who you are, because sometimes people fear participatory democracies because I might actually be a political target. I'm going to say something against maybe an opponent, and then I can't trust you to be able to keep that information private. And so that actually might be able to sabotage, my thoughts in terms of, my rights in terms of speech. And so if you can be able to assure your people that they're actually protected, and you can be able to assure them that that information will be used in private, and nobody will be mentioned, I think that's a good process. But also, number two is you need to really make people understand that they own the solution, and these solutions are there to support them and to help them, and so that they will be very much open, and they will say, okay, so I'm actually giving my opinion, and this opinion is going to be able to help me. So if, for example, it's for example, religious tolerance. So maybe there's differences between Muslims and Christians. So you giving them them opening up and say, we as Christians, we need to live this way with Muslims, and this is going to help us be able to reach this point A or point B. Then they'll actually be able to own the process, and actually you really don't have to follow up a lot. So basically, that's what I can say about owning the process.
Thank you, Calvin. Thank you, Anja. Katia, do you want to? I'm sorry, Katya?
Yeah,
Do you
sorry.
want to-
Yeah, I had a quick question because Calvin mentioned that the public support or public interest in deliberative democracy is weak. So I wanted to ask you maybe if you could elaborate a little bit on this, like what exactly is the cause? And also as kind of like a follow-up question, I wanted to ask what kind of, in your context and in your experience, what kind of obstacles do you have from institutional level when it comes to supporting deliberative democracy?
Yeah, so let me answer the last one. I mean, there's definitely different challenges, especially in my country. Most of the time, when you have discussion with people, because I work a lot also in the slums, and when you start having conversation with people, bringing people together, trying to understand what are some of the challenges, trying to ask them to give solutions and all that, because they always have solutions to the problems, and they actually always know how they can actually the problems can be fixed. But the problem is sometimes, either the government feels that you're a threat, or even the opponent, or even the members of parliament of that region feel like, okay, so this person, he wants to start engaging these people because he has political interest. And so that is one of the obstacles, is that yes, we work in that space. We want people to air their voices, but then also that people feels like, okay, so this person wants to connect with people so that next time they're going to be vying for those positions, and they actually want to take those positions. So those are some of the challenges that actually have been able to experience. No, also definitely apart from sometimes funding challenges, because you find that some partners are literally close to work in that particular region. So you say, we don't want, and they will always fake things like, oh, you're inciting the young people and all those kind of stuff. So those are some of the challenges that actually been able to experience. And then the first question was, can you repeat the first question?
Oh, sorry, the first question was,
the first.
I think in your presentation, you mentioned that there is an issue with the public support. So I wanted to understand, but by public support, you mean by community support or stakeholder support, and like what exactly is the core of the issue as you see it?
Yeah, so mostly for public support is, it's mostly, okay, for me, my challenge has always been in terms of, just maybe political goodwill, because the community are always ready to engage, they're always ready to give solutions and that kind of stuff. But then sometimes political goodwill lacks, because anytime you start engaging this young people and getting just as I said, getting solutions to the community, they always like you kind of have some kind of interest, all that. So that's the only challenge that I've actually been able to experience.
Okay, thank you, Calvin, thank you, Katya. So we are going to pass to the second speaker. That's you, Katya.
Perfect. Let me share my screen so that I can.
Okay.
Let me know if you can see the presentation.
Yes, we can see it right now.
Perfect. So before I start, I just want to briefly talk about Participation Factory and what we do. As I already said, we're based in Prague, Czech Republic, and the majority of our work is done in Central Eastern Europe, in Czech Republic and in Slovakia, but we've also done various projects in different places, including, for example, but non-limited to Kitwe in Zambia. So the approach that we have is kind of like validated beyond our context, but I'll be more than happy to hear your feedback if you think that it's going to be relevant to you. And the core of our work is basically process design and redesign. So we work mostly with the city halls or with regional governments that would like to inject deliberation or participation into their processes, or they want to kind of revitalize existing processes that already exist and kind of like dying out because they exhausted themselves. And as a part of it, we also help them build the capacities on any skills that are related to it, and provide advisory on the technological solutions that can help them better engage people online. And we are tracking civic tech solutions from all around the world, but mostly from Europe. And altogether right now, it's about 200 solutions that we're monitoring at the moment. And I wanted to say thank you to Calvin to talking so much in depth on how to design a specific process. And I want to kind of like zoom out and take a step back and talk about a different trend that we have in Czech Republic on what we call setting up participation system. And so basically one of the issues with deliberative democracy or public participation from my experience and from what I've been seeing is that it's closely connected to the political power, and it oftentimes becomes a one-time off project, or it becomes a victim of political change. So if the government changes, then the processes are being dropped, and of course it creates the cycle of frustration by the community, by the stakeholders, and by the city hall, who always feel like they are wasting their resources on rebuilding the capacity and then having to drop it again. And so the approach towards creating participation system is basically a step towards creating an infrastructure that would allow for public participation and deliberative democracy to sustain itself beyond a political cycle, beyond just one-time project. And so just to quickly show you, this is kind of the typical overlook of the menu of different participatory processes that we work with when it comes to Czech Republic or when it comes to our clients everywhere. So one is a very straightforward type of a process, which is a transformation of public space. It's a very tangible, very easy for citizens or for stakeholders to comprehend type of a process where participation basically gathers data on how people perceive the space, what they're lacking in it. And then based on all of this data, there's a transformation process that helps to revitalize and bring life to this process. Then the other type of process is basically participatory budgeting, or any type of budgeting exercise or consultation that allows people to provide data on how they would like their budget of their city hall or their regional government to be allocated. Again, it's a little bit misleading on the slide. It's not just participatory budgeting in the form that we know it. There are a lot of different consultations and different other models of opening up the budget, but that's a very separate category, just like working with finances and making sure that the citizens or stakeholders get a say on how to work with the budget. Then there is a segment of projects that is very demographic oriented. For example, when you need to engage young people, the most usual suspects are youth engagement type of processes, when you need to make sure the young people are staying in the cities that are otherwise being losing population. Or especially during COVID, there was a big focus on working with the senior citizens because they have been affected quite severely by the pandemic. Or when it comes to resolving the gender inequality, the population that's often been targeted as women. And so those are very specific type of processes that work just directly with those demographics. And kind of on the same page, it's also goal oriented, but it's a type of processes that invite stakeholders on a specific agenda. So here they're not connected by just a demographic or socio-demographic background, but more so they're connected through their relationship with a specific topic, for example, transportation or water and sanitation and healthcare, for example. And finally, kind of the most complex type of projects that we've been working on is a strategic planning, when citizens are being invited to consult their community on how they should be developing in a long-term type of a way. So for example, we've done a process on the Prague district level, where they've been deciding what should be the direction for the city to move forward to in the next 10, 15 years. So as you can see, all of them are quite diverse, very different, but as I said, all of those projects are kind of one-time off deals, and they do not really guarantee that participation or democratic deliberation will continue beyond this process. And the thing that can connect all of them together is what we call city participation system, or as I already said, is an infrastructure that allows all of those processes to neatly fit into the DNA of the city hall, so to say. So I'll talk more specifically about projects so that you can see how it's done in principle and how it's done in practice. So one of the projects that we worked on when it comes to creating this type of a system was the participation coordinators project that was done in the city of Prague, and we're now waiting for its renewal. And basically the idea behind it was to train 10 newly appointed coordinators in 12 out of 55 Prague districts so that they will build in internal capacities to continue participation, and they would be even able to identify the projects that would be the most valuable when it comes to injecting participation. As you can imagine, Prague is a big city. As I said, it has 55 different districts that are very different in terms of size and demographics. Some of them are dozens of thousands of people big. Some of them are just a couple thousands people big. And of course, the socio-demographic background is always different. So they all have different needs and capacities when it comes to it. So having an overall overarching, just one type of participation coordinator would not be sufficient because there is enough variation. So what happened instead is the city halls on those 12 districts created a position of a coordinator who were basically trained on how to identify participation processes and projects that would benefit the most from deliberation. And they would basically work together with the city hall and the community and the local stakeholders in order to implement them. So altogether, in the course of the past 2 years, the goal was to implement about 50 different projects, and those 12 districts actually managed to implement over 75 different projects. And as you can imagine, those people are not elected. Those are city hall clerks. So they're not connected to the political cycles. And so the capacity, once it's built, and the resources, once they're obtained, are staying in-house. And so in these 2 years, those districts managed to solidify an infrastructure that, regardless of what's going to come in the next elections that are coming this fall, this position is going to stay there. And so the participation will continue. There might be some cuts when it comes to budget. There might be some changes in terms of the political will and political cooperation, but the infrastructure itself is going to stay. So this guarantee of the longevity of the process beyond this particular one-time off project. And at the moment, after the success of the coordinators project in Prague, we are currently working on doing exactly the same thing, but on a regional level in Slovakia, where basically Ministry of Interior decided that 6 out of 8 regions will implement teams of 3 people that would be responsible for participation agenda, which means they would, again, as I said, get trained in what participation actually is, what kind of projects can be done through participation, and they would work on proactively identifying and proactively supporting all of the departments in helping them to improve the processes through participation. So at the moment, we're going through the stage of just setting up the process. It's a very early preliminary kind of time in the project, but it's a very essential time for either of those projects, because basically at the very beginning of the program like this, one of the things that needs to happen is the diagnostics of what actually already exists and what needs to happen. Because as you can imagine, no community is exactly the same. There is never the same level of capacity. There is never the same amount of resources available in the community. And there are never the same exact projects that are currently pending to happen. So basically, that's the first stage that has to happen, and it happened in Prague, and it's currently wrapping up in Slovakia, is what we call participation diagnostics. It looks into and zooms in on the organizational and institutional level to see what kind of obstacles there already exist, what kind of tools they already use, what kind of experiences they already have when it comes to deliberative democracy, And it helps then to create a tailor-made, customized plan for upskilling and improving of the internal resources. And it also helps to create a map of what needs to happen when it comes to participatory processes. Because again, one of the issues is cities oftentimes dive into too complex of a projects without fully understanding what kind of capacities they need and without understanding how those projects fit in the larger scheme of things. So having this diagnostics done and having a look at, okay, this is our capacities and this is the project that we have, and then matchmaking what actually makes the most sense and would allow for the most stable and the most steady progress, that is key and that is essential. So from our experience, the areas that coordinators are getting trained on is very obviously facilitation techniques. There is online, offline facilitations, and it has to be their comfort zone to be just there talking to people and making sure that they manage to get the data from them. Obviously, the next area of expertise is communication. That includes traditional communication, social media, crisis communication, and such more specific areas as project management and strategic planning, urban planning, process design, community management, and specifically civic tech. It's especially important in the Czech Republic, and it was increasingly more important with the rise of the pandemic and the need to move into an online space for the coordinators to be able to combine in-person and online participation. And when it comes to the lessons learned, yeah,
right here, the time has already passed, but you have 2 minutes left if you want to finish.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect. 2 minutes. Two minutes is more than enough. So I already mentioned that the currently know-how is not stored in-house and it needs to be acquired and mainstreamed. So that's why sustainable participation is not really attainable without a dedicated team, because otherwise you create dependency on external professionals. And on top of this, it's very important to have somebody who has a project management skill set and system set up in place, because otherwise, again, those are going to be one-time off projects that are not interconnected with each other and they do not reinforce each other. And as I was mentioning before, preliminary diagnostics is essential to successfully launch a program, because otherwise a city hall might very easily overwhelm itself. And just to wrap it up, that's my last slide. The focus from our experience always needs to be practical, at least in the Czech Republic, and even with the skeptical city halls. Talking about very broad conceptual things like democracy and transparency does not always yield support because they get scared or kind of like defensive of their role. So it needs to be more practical than that. And conversation around data and efficiency is something that has been proven to be successful when it comes to the Czech context. Politicians, even if they're quite conservative otherwise, are very responsive to those things. And finally, I would want to say that there is clearly a need for civic tech advising and for actually understanding what you need from civic tech before you actually acquire it or purchase it, because oftentimes in my experience and in our work experience, cities fall victims of their very successful marketing, and then they don't unfortunately know what to do with the digital participation beyond that. But I'm aware of the time. As I promised, that was the last slide. So I'm happy to hear your questions.
Okay, does anyone want to make a question? Yes, I think. Yes, Anja? Go on.
Thank you, Katja, very much for this really big outlook. Obviously, there's a lot of experience there. My question, short one, would be, those 75 projects, if I was listening correctly, in the Prague, how many percentage of the Prague budget did they consist of? Or, when we are to sum it financially, which part of the local budget was actually decided upon through this participatory?
To be honest, the projects are very different. One district from another. Some of the districts are having like much smaller projects when it comes to participation, while others actually had massive infrastructural or investment projects that have been worked on through this. Of course, it's still at the very early stage, so it's kind of like a small percentage. But it's kind of like on the rise. And what we managed to validate is that even investment projects that are kind of like high impact investment, long-term investment projects are meaningful to, like, there is a meaning and the value of doing it through participation.
Thank you, Katya. I think Frederick has another question.
Yeah, thanks so much, Katya. I think this was really captivating. And I think one of the challenges you mentioned around the transition and how skill is shared is where my interest in. I just wanted to know, in terms of my own learning, how you were able to ensure that knowledge that were acquired, maybe for the representative who were trained, how was that knowledge shared across the department? And I'm asking this because of an experience that I had. I did organize an exchange program where I took some government officers to a different country to learn about a program. But when they came back after 2 weeks, one of them went on early retirement, and it was really quite disappointing that we couldn't really even share the information with other people in the department. Yeah, thank you.
I think this is a great question. That's one of the key challenges, this cross-department cooperation. But basically, the way we secure the in-house know-how, first of all, as I said, we start with a diagnostic during which we identify what's the know-how that already is in-house, or what's the level of this know-how. And then based on this, we basically create tailor-made programs for each of the districts, or for each of the coordinators, or each of the teams when it comes to Slovakia. So none of them is having 100% similar curriculum. So all of them are learning from something different. So that's the first thing. The other thing is they're actually learning from practice. So the way it worked is we're not only helping them build the capacity, but we're also advisors available on the phone to help them with any questions that they have with the project. And gradually, in the time span of 2 years, it went from a very high volume of our advising to a much smaller one. Then it's basically us just troubleshooting and them doing everything individually. So for us, that's a great way to show that the know-how is staying in-house and they're actually capable to do it by themselves. As for the whole cross-department cooperation, that's a little bit of a different type of a species in the process. But that's one of the first activities that we also do. We help them map who the key actors are, and we help them to identify who are their allies or who are the blockers. So they start building internal relationship as well. And that has proven to be actually crucial for the success of the program. The city hall that had more members of it being involved with participation agenda and excited about it, managed to do more projects with a higher budget, because obviously they would see the value and they would even bring the projects themselves. They were like, okay, we want to work on this with participation, help us, versus some districts where the departments would not want to cooperate. So it's a lot of strategic relationship building as well.
Thank you so much, Katya. I think that Sylvia had some issue with her internet, so I'm gonna keep going with the facilitation while she comes back. Yeah, next let's go with Mateus.
Hi, Katya. It was very interesting what you say about participation coordinators. I think a similar action was initiated by the city of Warsaw, I mean, city office in Warsaw, in my country. And I would like to ask if these people, I mean, participation coordinators, will also work with deliberative methods. I mean, citizen assemblies, consensus conference, panels, and stuff like that. This is the first question. And the second question, about NGOs, I mean, will these people be connected to the local NGOs? To the local organization, for example, based on participation stuff or stuff like that. Okay, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. This is great to hear that it's happening elsewhere. I'm really excited to see that participation is moving towards this objective of like being more systematic. As for answering the question, the type of processes that those coordinators manage is anything from high-level deliberation as citizen assembly to more institutional, expert-focused kind of participation. So it really is everything. And in those 2 years, we were basically focusing on transmitting as much of know-how as possible so that they can easily operate with all of the catalog of knowledge they have. When it comes to NGOs, they usually, within the first, let's say, few months of work, they map the most important stakeholders, including CSOs and NGOs. So they usually have an understanding of who to engage based on the agenda they're working on. Obviously, they're not going to be engaging them all the time to equal capacity, but based on the agenda, of course.
Thanks.
Thank you, Katia. So we are going to pass right now to the third speaker of today. It's Julia. I don't know if you have a presentation.
No, I don't have one. I want to wait. Hi, hello, thank you. It's a pleasure to be in this session. Thank you very much for this project and for this exchange. My name is Julia Sequeira. I represent the Argentine Association of Participatory Democracy, and I'm going to present the experience of the Argentine Network of Participatory Budgeting. We are talking about design for deliberative democracy, so I will take these few minutes to introduce this tool and address its challenges. Okay, the participatory budget is a process of direct, voluntary, and universal democracy through which the population discusses and decides the destination of a part of the public budget. This model combines direct democracy with participatory democracy and understands that representative democracy is necessary, but not sufficient in the process of democratizing society. The citizen participate in public management and control the state. It is a Latin American democratic innovation policy. The first experience was developed in Brazil, in Prefecture of Porto Alegre in 1989 in the government of the Workers' Party. Another well-known experience in Latin America is that of Montevideo, Uruguay, promoted by the Frente Amplio government. The World Bank and other international institutions consider the participatory budget as a good practice, taking into account that it could become an effective tool to combat corruption and ensure that the demands of citizens and possible solutions are known. This experience is developed mainly in local governments, municipalities. That is the management closest to the citizenry. In general, of the 3 levels of government in Argentina, the local has shown a greater deployment in the development of participatory policies. There are thousands of different participatory budgeting processes in more than 50 countries around the world, and they all respond to very different logics. A study by the London School of Economics identified three main logics. The first of these is instrumental logic, which aims to improve administrative efficiency and optimize the use of public resources. It is financial logic and good management. A second logic is that of good governance, where the participatory budget is an instrument of communication and reestablishing trust between politicians and citizens. It is a technocratic logic. A third logic that is not very present today is that one that wants to radically democratize democracy, that citizens have more power, in particular to control part or all of public spending. Its logic is one of social and political transformation through the construction of a renewed model of participatory democracy with more or less pronounced overtone of direct democracy. The chosen logic and the objectives that it defines is the key when working on the methodological design for the implementation of the participatory budget. Well, in 2008, the National Participatory Budget Program was created. From the national government, actions are carried out so that more municipalities apply this experience. But a practice of these characteristics needed more actors to make it more powerful. He needed data to assess impact and compare methods to draw conclusions. It needed to spread good practices and train municipal teams to strengthen their capacities. This is how the Argentine Participatory Budget Network was born, a forum that brought together Argentine local governments with academic institutions and national government agencies that had the institutional mission of promoting it. This poses a qualitative leap in the management model and the political process. The network defined the participatory budget is not just another activity that the municipality faces. It is a commitment to a new management model whose central axis is popular protagonism in the construction of a more democratic and inclusive city. This acknowledges that the definition of participatory budgeting is not neutral. The definition obeys an idea about the role of citizens in the creation of public policies. In the year 2008, there were 21 Argentine municipalities that apply participatory budgeting. And with the work of the network, the number was 60 by the year 2015. The government responds to different political parties and diverse ideologies. Beyond the logic recommended by the network, each locality, each city adapts its methodology and design to its line of thought. It was mostly instrumental logic and technocratic logic too. Okay, the network promoted national meetings, training activities, documents for analysis, discussion forums, support for implementation in different cities, writing of good practice guides, dissemination of participatory budget in universities, and thematics participatory budgets focus on social sector in particular, such as those for older adults, youth, women, and diversity, and others. When the political party in charge of the national government changed in 2015, the network was deactivated, and the national program did not continue. Also, many municipalities continued with the participatory budget. They no longer worked in an articulated way and in a network as before, promoting a collaborative logic. From there, many of us were who were part of that process in the national administration, created the association that I represent today to give continuity to these initiatives from civil society networks. We are in the process of rebuilding the network, renewed in this post-pandemic stage that also lead us to rethink new form of participation, incorporation, digital platform, social medias, and civic tech. We are working on the necessary articulation with local partners, and we have already started training local teams that are implementing the participatory budget. Guiding citizens and territorial organization to take ownership of this tool and work on its permanent modernization is the key to not being conditioned to change in political management in order to implement it. Another line is to influence the public agenda in such a way that this type of program is institutionalized through regulation. Both strategies can occur simultaneously. We still collaboratively build the answer to this question. Can participatory budget be bears of profound political and social transformation? And if it were the case, what form should they take? What should be the role of urban popular social movements in its definition and implementation? Can they contribute to radically democratizing democracy in the country? Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. So we are running out of time, but I wanted to thank you first, Julia, Katia, and Calvin. So we are going to make a little session of questions. I don't know if any of you have questions for Julia. If you don't, I can make some questions. I wanted to know a little bit more like about maybe the issues or the problems that you have faced on those implementing sessions of participatory budgets. So what have been the main problems in the participatory budget design process that you have encountered, and how have you mitigated those problems?
Bueno, voy a contestar en español, si no es molestia, y después ustedes me ayudan a que todos me puedan comprender. Disculpen mi inglés. Me preguntaba sobre los principales problemas, ¿no? O las principales dificultades que encontramos en la implementación. Por un lado, a veces hemos encontrado una democracia de proximidad muy reducida, donde no se puede ver la ciudad como un todo, sino que se participa de manera muy parcial. También en algunas municipalidades se produjo la burocratización del presupuesto participativo, es decir, se volvían experiencias un poco reiterativas, repetitivas, donde la ciudadanía decidía sobre cosas que ya estaban previstas en la gestión del gobierno. Por otro lado, empezó también a ser una herramienta que se reemplazó por planes estratégicos más amplios vinculados al desarrollo de las ciudades. Bueno, son algunas de las problemáticas, ¿no? La burocratización de la herramienta y la dificultad para que la sociedad se la apropie y la pueda ir modernizando de acuerdo a las nuevas exigencias sociales.
Okay, so I'm gonna translate. Julia said that they have found, she said, like a very reduced democracy where the participation is very partial. And they have found also like a bureaucratization of the participatory processes where the citizenry had to decide on projects that were already made by the government and not by their own processes. So she said, like, it's a difficulty for society to appropriate the tool and to make sure that they can use it for their own processes and for making like the participatory processes of their own. Yes, I see that maybe Frederick.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it's really interesting to really hear how participatory budgeting has been used in a different country. And I just wanted to know how the level of success has been like. I know in Kenya we've attempted to do that, and at times the government has disregarded, saying that citizens are not expert to actually appreciate how to do a budgeting process. But one thing we do know that there is always a budgeted corruption that is hidden through the process. And when citizens come in, they are able to really unearth this. So they really come up with the reasons in terms of how they can disregard the citizen insight. So I'm keen to know if how the level of success has been in that country. Thank you.
Si quieres, traduzco un poquito.
Sí, por favor, Silvia.
Entonces, Frederick pregunta, pues cuenta que se dice que los ciudadanos no son expertos en pues en la formulación de estos proyectos y que en ocasiones es cooptado de pronto por intereses individuales o sí. Entonces, él pregunta un poco cómo fue el desarrollo de ese proceso, pues en tu contexto en específico y también pues lidiando con estos problemas pues de legitimidad de la ciudadanía.
Sí, efectivamente es una problemática que se presenta. Por eso nosotros desde la red hicimos mucho trabajo en pensar estas tres lógicas del presupuesto participativo, es decir, ¿para qué, con qué objetivos queremos que se implemente esto, ¿no? Y si queremos realmente que sea una herramienta de transformación, que sea una herramienta de empoderamiento de la ciudadanía, o si la vamos a limitar a una lógica de seguimiento de los gastos del gobierno, una lógica de mejorar la relación entre la sociedad y los gobiernos. Entonces, me parece que primero hay que tener como un acuerdo en cuanto a qué tipo de volumen político y transformador se le quiere dar a la herramienta, y en función de eso pensar estrategias metodológicas para llegar a esos objetivos. Con respecto a que la ciudadanía no cuenta con toda la información, esto efectivamente es así. Se hacían asambleas con los técnicos, funcionarios del gobierno de la municipalidad o de la ciudad, para que pudiesen ayudar a la ciudadanía a comprender qué cuestiones eran posibles, cuáles no y por qué, ¿no? Y en ese sentido, hacer un trabajo de cogestión entre los técnicos del municipio y las asambleas de ciudadanos. Por eso también es importante recuperar el trabajo de la red nacional, porque nos permitía a nosotros actualizar permanentemente este tipo de debates con los municipios, ¿no? Que si no se burocratizan y quedan muchas veces en la repetición del procedimiento y va perdiendo impacto.
So for answering your question, Frederick, so they found this like a major problem. She said that the network did not, like they make these processes in 3 logics for the participatory budget in order to know the objectives, the specific objectives that they have to develop. And in this logic, they have to find, first of all, what tool does the citizenry want? And if they want to develop a tool for the citizens, or it is just monitoring the government expenditures, or what process do they want to develop? And then they have to know the volume of the tool that they want to do. So this is a lot of methodological tools for them to reach the specific objective that they want to make. She said also that in the processes that they have been making, they held meetings with the citizens in order to make like connections between the citizens and the government and understand which were the processes that are being possible to develop. And this is like bringing the gap between the desire and the functional processes between municipalities and the citizens itself. I'm going to ask Bella if you want to ask the question.
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Can you hear me? I'm calling from Lagos, Nigeria. I just want to know, during the implementation of this their participatory budgeting, did they make? Was there a time where they actually were asking for a particular percentage of the budget that probably for any probably they want a percentage of the budget to be allocated to a particular group? For example, maybe it's okay for women, 10%, for men, 30%. Was there anything like that in their implementation in that participatory budgeting? That's my question.
Do you mean like in terms of
in allocation of
what?
If they were asking the government to allocate a percentage of budget for a particular group of people. For example, whether the women 10%, the youth 20%. That's what I want to know.
Okay. La pregunta va en torno a si desarrollando estos procesos se tienen términos como de inclusión como tal de la ciudadanía, es decir, qué tanto porcentaje, por ejemplo, de jóvenes o de mujeres o de hombres se tiene en cuenta en este proceso, y cómo se lleva a cabo pues esa selección como demográfica ciudadana.
En principio, lo que nosotros establecimos desde la red fueron como algunos puntos básicos. Por un lado, que cada localidad se diera su autorreglamento, y por otro lado, que fuera de libre acceso. Hay algunos municipios que permiten la participación de mayores de 18 años en adelante, otros a partir de los 16. Pedimos que fuera universal, una persona, un voto, que tenga carácter vinculante, y bueno, que haya un control ciudadano en la ejecución posterior de los proyectos. Esos fueron como algunos de los puntos básicos que nosotros proponemos para comenzar a trabajar en cada localidad. El presupuesto participativo, por ejemplo, de la ciudad de Rosario, es un presupuesto con perspectiva de género. Lo trabajaron de esa manera y lo plantearon para que respetara los lineamientos de la incorporación de la perspectiva de género. La localidad de Entre Ríos, en Paraná, tiene un presupuesto participativo exclusivo para adultos mayores, para trabajar con ellos, y nosotros trabajamos con UNICEF, presupuesto participativo para las niños, niñas y adolescentes. Han sido algunas de las estrategias que utilizamos para que estas perspectivas y para que sea realmente representativo el universo que participa, fueron algunas de las herramientas que nosotros llevamos a los municipios para que empiecen a incorporar. En general participan los vecinos del barrio, de ese sector de la ciudad, ¿no? Y eso hacía que muchas veces se perdiera la diversidad. Participaban siempre las mismas personas, o personas que ya estaban participando de organizaciones sociales o políticas. Entonces empezamos a llevar todas esas estrategias y buenas prácticas que conocíamos para que los municipios las fueran incorporando. Hay que ayudarlos mucho y darle mucho soporte a los municipios para que incorporen estas nuevas experiencias.
Okay, so Bella, I can see her right now. Yes. So, in order to answer to your question, Julia said that they have established some points, some basic points for each locality. So everyone should make the rules of their own participatory budget, and all the processes of participation that they develop in order to they make their own emphasis on the population that they want to integrate on the process. And then she talked about that in two specific cases. The one in Rosario, they had worked with a gender perspective from guidelines, so they could make a gender inclusion of women, and then make all of this process based on gender perspective. And then she had told about another one in Paraná, where they also focus on older people. And she said that all of these perspectives have been implemented thanks to key tools that they can share with the municipalities, and they can share on the processes, so they can include the diversity of citizenships in these spaces. They also share strategies and good practices for the municipalities, so they can incorporate them.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bella. So I think Abbas should be the last one, and then we can wrap up and finish this session.
Thank you very much. Nothing much. I just want to use the opportunity to commend all of these speakers. Honestly, I am really impressed and intrigued, inspired, motivated, and thought-provoked. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate everything. We should be giving them love, so let's send love. Let's send love. Need love. I'm sending mine now. Thank you so much. Sylvia, come up with your love. Let's show them love. Thank you. That's that.
Thank you, Abbas. Well, thank you all of you. Thank you for this session and all the people that were here and asked questions also. I'm sorry, Calvin, I will turn your mic off right now, but I want to, well, wrap up this meeting saying that thanks to the three speakers, I think with that we saw that through the design and through the data and the processes of transferring knowledge and best practices, and through the training of teams that you have already worked with, we can make a collaborative logic and of a collaborative logic for the participate and deliberative processes, and that can last over time and that can remain beyond institutional changes also. So I want to thank Calvin, Katya, and Julia for your presentations. And thank all of you for being here and to attend this first session of exchange of experiences.
Thank you very much as well for giving us the platform as well. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. So be attentive to the other sessions. The next session will be Tuesday at 8 UTC. That will be methods and tools for deciding making beyond the vote. So be there too and stay in touch with all the projects in Demo.Reset.
Thank you, everyone.
We'll come back. We will come back. We are waiting Demo.Reset.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sylvia.
Bye.
All of the time. Bye.
All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Next time, Sylvia, bring our tea. Bring tea. We'll be drinking our coffee while watching.
Yes, that was. Hi, Melina. Can you hear me?